Hey everybody, welcome back to Fix the Rust Bucket. This is the second part of our oil change and multi-point vehicle inspection video. Last video we did the oil change itself and an inspection underneath. In this video we're going to go ahead and show you the doing a multi-point vehicle inspection on the top end of your car, your tires and your brakes, trying to save you some money so you could do this at home and not have to go out and pay so much money to have someone else to do it. Okay, so for some people, when they open up the hood of a car, this might look a little intimidating underneath here, and all this wires and hoses and all this other different kind of stuff they don't know about going on inside there. We're not going to go into depth in this video of like the engine parts, things like that. We're going to do an inspection of wear and tear parts and fluids that you need to keep an eye on. Whether you're doing it for your oil change and you're going to learn how to, you want to learn how to do your own vehicle inspection instead of paying hundreds of dollars for someone else to do it. Or this is something also good to know if you're getting ready to go on a road trip. These are the things you want to go look at. It's stuff that you can do at home to lessen the chance of your car breaking down or having a malfunction unexpectedly. Okay, so we're going to start off with just something really simple as your washer fluid top off. And if you can see now, your bottle might not be in the same spot this one is on the car. Every car might be a little bit different location, but all of the signs and stuff are pretty close to the same thing. So if you see right there, it's indicating your washer fluid, and that's your washer fluid fill up bottle. Simple inspection. This bottle goes down underneath of the fender here, and it's tucked up inside this corner. So I can't see if it's full or not. I do know I have some left. But since I can't see at the top, we'll probably buy some more and top that off. All right, so after you've checked your washer fluid level here, you're going to know on your wiper blades, you're going to know pretty much if they need to be replaced or not when you're driving down the rainstorm and if it's streaking across your window or smearing up. Mine have been on the car for about, I guess, a year now or so. They're getting a little dirty and they're getting a little worn. It won't hurt to replace them. They're not that expensive, so we'll go ahead and replace them probably pretty soon here. Moving on with our inspection, we're gonna head over to the power steering. Right here is your power steering fluid. Now in this car, it's great. They show you a steering wheel fluid. The little book there is just your information center if you want to look at your manual, and it'll tell you what you need to know about your power steering fluid. I'm gonna show you though in the video what you're looking for. Okay, so with your power steering fluid, the reservoir might look different, the lid or the cap might look different, but inside they're pretty much all the same. They're a short little plastic tab and they have some writing on them. Now, the writing might be a little bit different depending on what kind of car you have. I'll show you here. So this one here has a minimum and a maximum, and then the little cross marks, right, you see there. The fluid you want in between those two lines right there. Some vehicles will have it showing hot and cold fills. So if your car is cold when you're checking it, it should be down near that cold line. Or if you've been driving for a while but you went to check it, it'll have a hot side where should be up to the hot side. This car just shows a minimum and maximum. So before we stick it back in there and check the fluid, we're gonna take a rag, wipe that down. We're gonna look for any chips or any kind of damage done to that. Same thing on the cap. Gonna look for any damage done around where the cap seals on there. There is no damage. It's good. So put the cap back on, drop it down, lock it in place where it goes. Just a split second, don't need to do anything on it. Come bring it back up. Now if you see, get this to focus. We are right at just below our max line there. That's good. You don't need to add any, and there's no problems with the power steering fluid. And as you remember, underneath on the bottom side, we were looking around for any fluid leaks. We didn't have any. So our power steering is good. Moving on, we're gonna go to our oil cap. Now with the oil cap, we already know, the oil's good. We just got done changing it in the last video. What we're gonna do with this is, we're gonna check around here where the cap seals onto the filler neck. I'll wipe this one down. My engine's getting dirty with dust. It's going to need to be cleaned soon. But what we're going to do on this is we're just going to check. Let me show you here. On our filler cap here, we have this big gray rubber O-ring. And then the cap sits down inside there, twists and lock. So, just a quick wipe. Any junk on it or whatever that might be on there. Look at the O-ring. They very rarely fail out. These things are usually reliable and last forever. It's in good shape. I don't see any nicks or cuts in it, so that's good. Same thing there, no damage. I'm just going to go ahead and stick that back on. All right, so now moving over from your oil cap, we're going to head over to the brake master cylinder on your car. Over here on the brake master cylinder, you'll see the clear bottle. It's marked with a minimum or maximum line and a minimum line. Most cars nowadays are going to look similar to this. Older vehicles are metal and you can't see inside or through them. That you'd have to pull the cap off. But for this one, you can see through it. That's your maximum line of your fluid level, and that's your minimum line. So if the fluid is hitting that minimum line or below it, either your brakes are so worn down that there is no brake pads left, or you have a leak in your system, which if you have a leak in your system, you're going to know because your pedal is going to be soft to the touch and it's going to more than likely go to the floor. My fluid is not at the max. It's actually just below. I can see it kind of right through here. It's just below the max line. That's just telling me that my brake pads are probably about halfway through. From what I know, I replaced them last time. They're about halfway through their life. Don't ever fill this up. If it's low, just because that max line's there, if it's low, don't fill it up. What's happening is, as your brake pads are getting smaller, your caliper and the piston in your caliper is expanding out. And that fluid is taking up that space where your caliper is expanding out, making up for the difference of your pads being thinner. If you top this off when you go to do your brakes or have someone else do your brakes, it's going to overflow out of the system. It's a closed system. There should be no reason to top it off. When you go to do your new brakes, which is a whole nother video, I'll show you later on when we do brakes, you just take the cap off, and when you push everything back out, it'll fill this back up. With that, moving on to the multi-part of the inspection, I'm going to check the cap, look for any debris or any cracks in the seal. The cap is looking really good. We're going to look at our fluid inside the master cylinder itself. And mine is starting to look pretty dirty. It should be a clear brownish tint type color to it. And that actually is looking filthy dirty. All right, so mine's looking pretty dirty. Don't knock anything down in there. I'm just wiping any dust off the top here without knocking the dust down into the fluid, which can contaminate your brake fluid. Ours is clean, the cap's good, the fluid is dirty. Again, like I said, we're going to do a flush on this, the entire system, when we do our next brake job. Moving on from there, we're going to go to your transmission and how to check your transmission fluid. All right, so actually before we get into doing the transmission fluid check, we're going to check our coolant. Now with your coolant, again, this is my only spot to fill it up. Sometimes the fill spots are on top of your radiators. This one happens to be on top of the overflow bottle. The overflow bottle, which you're not going to see because the air filter box is in the way, has a hot and cold fill line on it, kind of just like I just showed you on the brake master cylinder. You can look on the side of the bottle and see where you're at. Ours is sitting perfect for the cold level. Again, don't open these up. Let your car cool off. If your car's hot, don't open these up until it cools off. Our car's cool. We're going to go ahead and lift this up. Again, check the seal on the cap. Seal's good. Put that off to the side. It's clean around where the cap seals. Now this you're going to go to the store and get yourself a little tester. This little tester right here, what you're going to do is you're going to stick it down into your fluid, whether it's through the overflow bottle here or if you can get access to your radiator itself, the fill cap, you're going to squeeze this little bubble. This hose will be down in your fluid, and you're going to squeeze it till you fill it up, your coolant level, up to this point here. It's going to give you a reading of the quality of your coolant still in your car. It's going to give you a freeze point, and on the back side, if you look at it, it'll give you a boiling point. You can get these from any part stores online or whatever. So take that insert down in there, gets down into our fluid, squeeze that bubble, fill it up. If you go past like that above the fill line, just lift it up out a little bit, squeeze down until you get to that point, and then stick it back in the fluid. Right here, the level of the coolant inside this clear plastic piece. And then if you can see, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it or not. Get the light off it. There's a little plastic dial, I guess you would call it, inside there. The pointer is going to point to where you're at for your, so right now our freeze point, and I know our coolant's good because we just got done doing a cooling system flush on our car. We are negative 45 before we would ever freeze, and it's actually just above that. If I flip it around to the other side, holding it level, it's going to give us our boiling point. Our boiling point is over, let's read this upside down. Our protection level is over 268 degrees. We're fine there too. So again, you can see the little needle, if you hold it straight, the little needle is pointing directly at your boiling point on this side, your freeze point on that side. If that's diluted or it's the life expectancy of the coolant is gone, for any reason, you can get down into here to -7, 0 degrees, -20. And if you have one of these, you'll see all these little different things. So that little tester we had, it's not telling you how your whole system is. It's just telling you what the coolant, the condition of the coolant is. Our coolant is in good shape. So it's got a high freeze, or, you know, super good freeze point, super good boiling point. And the level's in a good spot. Don't have to worry about anything with that. Moving on from the coolant, we're going to do our transmission fluid check and level check. This car, it looks like a oil fill cap or all the other caps that we have on there, and it has a little wire dipstick on it. Some cars are going to have a dipstick, a different color than yellow, and sometimes they're in the back corners or on the back side of your firewall. It'll be a dipstick similar to your oil dipstick, same thing, same principle. This one just happens to be right here on the car. Now I'm going to show you how to do this first, then I'm going to show you have to check your any car. You have to check your transmission fluid level with the car running. So I'm going to show you how to do it first, then I'll get the car running, and then we'll just do another check again on it. So like I said, you have to have your car running to do this. I'm just going to do this right now so you can hear what I'm saying. You're going to pull your dipstick out, wipe it off. Again, just like the oil dipstick, you're going to have a minimum and maximum line, and anything in between that you're good at. You'll put your dipstick back in there. This one's a pain in the butt. Cap's back on. Bring it back out and check the level. Now our level is not going to show anything correct right now because the car's not running, but you got to be within those marks to be good. Before I get the car running, also, transmission fluid, it should be a reddish color, and this is looking more, it has a slight red tint to it, but it's looking more brown than anything else. So with that brown, also if you smell it, and you smell like a burnt smell to your transmission fluid, and you'll know what the burnt smell is when you smell it burnt. If it's not red and it's turning brown like that, Then it's time to do a transmission service on your car. Just, you know, sometimes it's just a filter and a fluid flush. So let me get the car running. We'll check this the correct way. All right, so I don't know if you can hear me or not, but if you can, now we can actually check the correct level on the dipstick. If you look, if you can see this, we are just a little bit low. And like I said, it's brown, it's not red. So, something else to note, our car is going to need a transmission service done. Go ahead and shut your car back off. Make sure your cap is secure. And we move on to the next spot to check. All right, so that completes the fluid part of your check. All your fluids, your oil was done, your power steering fluid, your washer fluid, brake fluid, coolant, and your transmission. Now we're going to move into the air filters, hoses, and a couple of other, looking for anything out of place or might be damaged. So now we're going to start with the engine air filter on the car. And with the engine air filter, we're going to just need a flathead screwdriver. Some of these air filter boxes have screws on them, and some of them have these little spring clips on them. This one has 3 spring clips on it, and then there's tabs, 4 tabs on the bottom that holds the bottom in place, holding the air filter in the box. But to make it easy on yourself, we're going to remove the hose clamp, or we're going to loosen the hose clamp on our intake hose. Air going into your intake to mix with the fuel. We're going to loosen up that clamp so we can remove the hose from the air filter box, which will make it easier to get this out of the way and get our air filter out. So with that, undo these. If they're screws, just unscrew all of them. Once they're loose, just push the hose down out of your way. Push the box out or towards the engine and lift up. That pulls it out of the tabs on the bottom. Now our mass flow air sensor is still hooked up. We don't need to disconnect that. We're just going to pick it up and spin it out of our way. Like that, flip it out of our way. Gives us access to our engine air filter. So the engine air filter has a few things here. It's looking a little dirty. This has this mesh, cloth mesh across the top to fine, it's like a fine filter. And then the pleats inside here. I got to replace this, so I'm going to try and show you. You can look, if you don't have this on here, some air filters are just these pleats. You can pull apart and look and see how dirty it is on the inside of there. Now this one's not too dirty on the inside, it's got some dust on it. That's because of this. It's not going to hurt on mine or at a parts store. These aren't that much. We'll add that to the list of parts or things that we're going to want to replace. This is the same thing again, trying to save you money. This is the same thing they're going to do at any garage. They're going to do exactly what we're doing here, and then they're going to recommend the things that, like this. They're going to recommend you replace your air filter. But remember, at a garage, you're going to pay for their labor, you're going to pay for the part, and then you're going to pay an up cost of the part that they got you. Save yourself money, do this yourself. Get your own air filter and put it back in. So for now, we'll set our the old air filter back in there. Get the face of the box back on. which all I'm doing is I'm fighting that intake tube. I'm trying to get that out of the way. Get these tabs back where they belong. The tabs are back in place across the bottom. Close it back up. Take your hose and just slip your hose back up on to the air box. Once the hose back on, just tighten down your hose clamp. So now that we have the air filter, the engine air filter checked on the vehicle, we're going to go to the cabin air filter. And on this vehicle, I like this vehicle, it's nice and easy. Underneath of this plastic piece right here, just underneath inside here is the cabin air filter. Some vehicles, you have to access them through the glove box and or up underneath the dashboard. The Impalas, this is simple to get to here. There's a tab on this side and a tab on this side, and you remove the plastic and all this out of the way. Easy access. So I'll show you how to get into there now. All right, so to remove the cabin air filter, a flathead screwdriver, and if you have a pair of needle nose pliers, it makes it a little bit easier. Underneath of here, there's one tab. On the other side, the same kind of tab. Just take your screwdriver and lift up the middle part of the tab. Pull that out. You can use your needle nose pliers on the other part. I just pull them both out. It makes it easier so I don't lose them. And with those two removed, put them onto the side. And the same thing over here on the other side. There's a tab right up here in the corner. Pull the center out. Pull the other piece out again and put that off to the side. All right, so once you have your two tabs pulled out, you're gonna take, this is the rubber seal for your hood. Between the hood and the engine compartment, it just keeps weather out of here. You can just lift that seal up off this metal groove here. There's just a little, it sits inside that groove right there. Just take and put that off to the side. It'll make it a lot easier when you go to pull this plastic piece off. Now, on this car, now where this tab comes out off of the passenger side front of the car, come around the back of the hood, you'll see that plastic piece is coming up through here. And it actually hooks onto this part of the fender. So to remove that, literally just push down a little bit, pull it out, and that'll be disconnected from there. And then we can go back under the hood. And now we can lift this piece up. Now, the hose is for your washer fluid to clean the windshield underneath of here. So just be a little careful when you pull it out. You're not gonna hurt them, this is part of it. You're not gonna hurt them, just don't yank this part out. If you have to, you can disconnect it underneath of here, but there's plenty of play with that to just lay it down here and out of your way. All right, so now with that plastic piece removed, you have one more plastic piece underneath of here. It basically keeps debris and some water, it channels it out from over top of your cabin air filter here. That one's a simple, these three tabs are just resting on the piece of metal with the windshield. And then there's this flat piece that just rests on top of this bottom of this plate right here. Just lift up the tab, push down. There's no screws for this or whatever. Just push down, pull that out of the way, and put that off to the side. And that easy, you've accessed your cabin air filter. Grab it by the tab, pull it out, and inspect it. And as you can see, our cabin air filter is dirty. So we will go ahead and put that on a list of parts that we're going to replace, that we're finding out need to be replaced while doing our multi-vehicle inspection and oil change. All right, so that's checking your cabin air filter, at least on the Impalas. It's very simple. Just rest it back in it. It just sits on a square little plate on the bottom there. Just stick it back in. Take this plastic piece, stick it back up underneath. Hook it back to the metal right underneath your windshield. Lay that back down there. Take your second plastic piece. Now don't forget this side over here, under the hood, up to the fender. Make sure that you don't pinch or your lines are back underneath as well. And that just lays right back down in place. Your two tabs. The two tabs back in there. The second half of the tab put on. Push that one down in there as well. So once you have the tab in place, this is back in place. Take the hood seal, just push it back down on that groove. Make sure it's seated, and that's good to go. And that takes care of the two air filters. So moving right along with our inspection, we're just going to go ahead and look at where the battery cables attach to the battery itself. Look for any kind of corrosion or just junk that might be building up. The negative looks good and the positive's looking good. So there's nothing more to do with this. They're clean, they're on tight, that's good. All right, so moving from the battery, now we're going to move into checking our upper and lower radiator hose. Okay, so right now we're looking at the upper radiator hose on the Impala here. It has this protective sleeve where these wires and some other engine components get close to it. So underneath of it, if you can't slide that out of your way, if you can't slide it completely out of your way to look at the hose, which you want to visually look at it, see if it's looking dry rotted or cracked or has anything in it. But if your car has these sleeves on it and you cannot get them out of your way, put this one back where it's supposed to go, there's another way to check it. You can also squeeze the hose. Now it's easier when the car is cooler because there's no pressure in there, but you can squeeze these hoses and you can listen for any cracks, or you'll feel it. You'll actually feel the inside of the hose, or the hose itself feels like it's cracking. This one doesn't. It sounds good all the way around. And from what I can see visually from here and down below where the camera can't see, it does look good. So upper hose, give it a thumbs up, and we'll move over to the lower hose. All right, so here we are over with the lower radiator hose. Now this one, I can see just a little bit of the hose back up there where it connects to the engine, and a very little tiny bit of it where it hooks into the bottom of the radiator. Other than that, it has this protective sleeve like the other one just did on it. Plus it has a heat shield wrap put on it because the hose runs right up alongside the engine block. There's no way to see this hose except for the very, very ends. There's no bulging in the hoses on the ends where they're connected. Again, we're just going to give it some squeezes. We don't hear any cracking. That little bit of noise you hear right there, that is the heat shield wrap on it. Other than that, the hose sounds good. So again, that's another thumbs up for that hose. That hose is good. All right, now that we have the upper and lower radiator hoses out of the way and checked, they were easy access to get to. Now to see underneath here, the serpentine belt on this car is buried underneath of this hose. So I'm going to get you a shot of that, and we'll show you what you're looking for in that. But we want to visually inspect underneath of this cover. Now to remove the cover, you do have to remove the oil fill cap. This just sits on little prongs. Just sits on little rubber grommets in there. Pull that out of the way and just set it off to the side. Put the oil fill cap back on so you don't knock anything down inside your car. We're just going to do a visual inspection of any of the hoses and connections we have on the car. Looking to see mice. And if your car sits for a while, mice love to nest inside here, and I'm actually going to show you down in here. It had to have been a mouse. I got some acorns that have been eaten and they're down inside there. But visually just look around for anything that's been chewed on or might look like it's wearing out. The car looks pretty good. Right now we're just looking for any damage done to it, but there is not really any damage done to it. With that cover off, I'll get you over here and I'll show you what to look for on your serpentine belt. Now, to get to the serpentine belt on this car, so you can visually see what I'm looking at here, and pull the wires out of the way. Underneath the hose here is our belt, right down there. Now, a good belt, if you push down your belt, you don't want more than about a 1/2 inch play on the belt. If you're getting more than a 1/2 inch play on that belt, then your belt's probably getting stretched out, worn out, and it's getting old. This one does not have that, so we're good with that. But also you can take and twist your belt up, and you want to see those grooves right there underneath? These grooves right here, you want to take a look at those grooves. See if they're dry rotting or cracking. These are not. They're all still in really good shape. That dry rot or crack is showing that the belt's getting old. So also you want to look on the sides of the belt, on this side, and I'll twist it, and on that side. And if you see any fraying or any kind of string coming out of there, your belt's rubbing the wrong way on one of your pulleys somewhere. It's either jumped a tooth or it's just wearing out. This one, again, this belt's in good shape. The condition of it's in really good shape. There's nothing fraying on it. I can see farther down. I can't get a camera shot of it, but I can also see the belt farther down, and it looks just as good down there. All right, so I said I'd show you where I saw signs of what looked like some mice or something was living in the car or under the hood. And as you can see, it's right down inside there. There's some chewed up acorns. So I did do a little bit more of an inspection around that area and checking the wires and stuff to make sure nothing was chewed on. I didn't see anything else chewed on, so we're okay with that. We're going to go ahead and vacuum that out, get that debris out of there. So this is pretty much what the multi-point vehicle inspection that's going to be done in your car. It's pretty much what they're going to do. We went a little farther with pulling it. They're not going to pull this off. They're going to look. They're not going to do more work than they have to try and find something wrong with your car, unless you specifically go in there and tell them that something's wrong with your car. That's what I'm saying. Doing this yourself, you can look a little more in depth, take a little bit more time, and you might catch something before it becomes a problem. With that done, we're going to put the cover back on here. We're going to move on to our lights and our tires and our brakes. Now, there's no need to start the car, but just put the key in the on position and turn the automatic lights off, and we're going to check our left turn signal. I can see from in the car it's flashing in the front and it's flashing on the rear. Check our right turn signal. Again, the reflection off of the stuff in the garage, I can see it's flashing in the front and flashing in the rear. Turn our parking lights on. Now we'll get out, go around, check all of our parking lights. While we're in the rear checking the parking lights, we're going to check, make sure our license plate light's working. Come around front. Side marker light, parking light, parking light. Get back in the car. Those are our headlights. Both I can see are on from inside the car. Our high beams, both I can see they're on. Now shut all the lights back off. And then we're going to check with the key. Now remember, the key is in the on position, but the car is not running. We're going to set our tool on the brake pedal. And with our tool set on our brake pedal, we're just going to come to the back of the car. Make sure that all three of our brake lights are working, which they are. All right, so turn the car on. And we're going to look for our reverse lights. Also, I can see that they are both working from the back mirrors here. So with that, that's all the lights checked. We can move on to tires and brakes. All right, so we're wrapping up, getting close to the end of our multi-point vehicle inspection when we did our oil change. We're getting ready to pull the tires off. We're going to do a tire rotation, and we're going to go around and check and inspect the brakes while we have the tires off. Now remember, with the tire rotation, the vehicles have these tire pressure sensors in them, and they're set up for whether they're left front, right front, rear, vice versa. If you don't have the tool to reset those sensors, if your computer goes off with a tire problem, it might tell you that your left rear tire is flat, but if you did a tire rotation and it's up front, it's going to be somewhere else. It's just something to think about or remember if you do this on your own. You can buy those tools and you can reset those sensors yourself. So with that, let's get the tires pulled off, get them to where they need to be for the rotation. So front wheel drive car, the 2 front tires go straight back. So driver's side front goes to the driver's side rear. Passenger side front goes to the passenger rear. Passenger rear comes across to the driver's side front, and then the driver's side rear crisscross over here to the passenger front. So before we get into doing or inspecting the brakes, I did say I was going to go over tire tread wear. I know everybody's got that trick of the penny in the tread. You don't need to do that. You don't need to set a penny or upside down or look at Lincoln's head or any of that stuff. These tires are made with tread wear bars in them. I'm going to try and get you a couple shots here of different tires. If you can see right here, that's a tread wear indication bar. And they're across all the tires, and they're in all the tires. And as you can see on the tread wear of these, they're not even below halfway yet. I think these tires might be 2 years old. These are the new tires for the truck we have out, the red truck we've been working on. These are brand new. Again, you have the tread wear bars in it. You can see the height on that. If I come back to this tire, which is one of the tires off of the wreck truck that we bought and we're fixing, there's nothing left. There's not a tread wear bar. There's not even tread left. It's actually worn down to the string on the inside here, which tells me the alignment was off on this vehicle when it was running. Coming back to the other tire, which the lighting is poor back here, but there's our tread wear bars. And you can see the depth in them. They're still good. All right, so as you can see on this tire here, here's your wear bars, and there's your tread. As you can see how close it's getting to that wear bar, these tires are done. Also, as you see on this tire, you see how smooth it is in the center here, and you got this tread here. This center of the tire had marks that looked like that. They're gone, which is a sign of this tire was overinflated on this truck. Now to the back here, it's kind of hard to see, but well, you can't see, the wear bars are gone. There is one in here. I found, there it is right there. What's left of it. Again, the tread's completely gone. This tire again was overinflated in the middle. That comes back to what I was just telling you. Go by the manufacturer's recommendations, whether it's in your book in the car or on the driver's side door. Don't overinflate or underinflate these tires. If it was underinflated, you're going to see a lot of wear here and a lot of tread left in here. All right, so now that we have the tires off, we can go ahead and inspect our brake pads and our rotors. Gonna just take a look. Now remember when we were doing the oil change in the first video, we were able to see underneath here in the back what the inside part of the rotor looked like. It looked okay. The outside's looking the same. Now the rust you see here, that's normal on any vehicle. It's where the pad meets the rotor that you're worried about. There's no deep grooves or any cuts inside this, so that's looking pretty good. This here is your warning tab on your brake pad. That will start, it's set off, so when you have a little bit left of your brake pad left, that's going to start squealing and scraping against your rotor. You're going to hear that noise warning you that your pads are getting low. If you go past that point of that thing squealing, you're going to start digging the rivets that hold the pads on to the backing plate. You're going to dig those rivets into these rotors, and you're going to destroy the rotor, needing new rotors. Now, with that inspection there, I'm going to turn the wheel, and we're going to look inside the caliper and see what life we have left on the pads themselves. So with the wheel turned, we can now look inside the caliper and see what the brake pads themselves look like. A little bit better, you can see out there. So there's the backing plate of the pad. There's your pad, and there's the start of your rotor. These pads are still good up front. See if I get you a shot of the one on the inside, if you can see it. You can see the one on the inside, same thing. You're also looking for wear, the wear on these. If one's smaller than the other one, if they're not even, more than likely your caliper itself is starting to seize up, and it's staying, basically what it's doing, it's staying locked and it's pushing down on there, wearing that pad down. But these front pads on this side are good. The other side we'll take a look at, and then we're going to go to the rear. All right, so now here we are on the back side of the car, checking the back brakes. Same thing. Look at your rotors. See if there's any grooves or any cuts in them. Again, if you can feel around the back side, you can feel if there's any cuts or grooves inside there. There's not. They're actually smooth. There's the brake pad for the rear of the car. And as you can see, there's just about no pad left. So my rears need to be replaced. Now remember, earlier in the video, the brake fluid was down low. Well, there's the reason why. And I'm sure the insides are the same as the outside. Take a look up here in the front. Yeah, the pad on the inside is the same as the outside. They are past their life expectancy, and it's time to get them replaced. So before I dig in and ruin my rear rotors, we'll go ahead and get brakes and do brakes all the way around on the car. All right, so the last thing I did, we finished up the brake inspection, rotated our tires, put our tires back on, went around and checked our tire pressure. So with tire pressures, I'm going to show you something here. Now on the sidewall, tire pressure, it's going to say 44 psi or 35 psi. These are the truck tires. The car is different. That right there is not the number that you put your car tire to. It's either going to be in your manual, or on this car, if you go to the door panel, right here, it gives us our tire pressures for front and rears. So our front and rears are 30 psi all the way around on the car. Also, a lot of people, I know a lot of people forget this. When you check your tires on the outside, don't forget the spare in the trunk. Make sure that that's filled up. Most donuts are 60 psi's max. If you have a full-size spare, put it to what psi the car is telling you to put it at on the door. So these two videos wraps up doing an oil change and a multi-point vehicle inspection underneath, on top, tire rotation, and inspecting your brakes. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel and giving me a thumbs up. And don't forget, we're getting close to it now. We're just over 200 subscribers. Subscribe to the channel. And we're going to do a video. We're going to do a giveaway of a Fix the Rust Bucket coffee mug. I have Fix Rust Bucket stickers. And in this giveaway, a little magnetic wrist. I don't know what you could use it for, but I'm going to give it to you for free. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.